You're listening to Beyond the Bell, Leading with Purpose, a new conversation space where educators and leaders explore what it truly means to lead with purpose, courage, and heart. Join Dr. Nathan Manley and myself, Jim Cummins, as we share the inspiration behind Lifted and how purpose-driven leadership can transform schools and communities. This is Beyond the Bell, Leading with Purpose.
When we founded Lifted, our goal was to support leaders through practical coaching, systems thinking, and meaningful leadership development. This podcast flows from the same purpose, creating space for leaders to reflect, learn, and be encouraged as they lead with purpose. Today's conversation is about leadership that creates opportunity. We'll be talking about student pathways, workforce development, community partnerships, leadership, trust, and what it looks like to intentionally build systems that help students, staff, and schools thrive. Today, we are honored to welcome Jason Mundorf to the podcast. Jason serves as superintendent of Kearney Public Schools in Kearney, Nebraska. He was recently recognized as the 2025 Region 4 Superintendent of the Year by the Nebraska Association of School Administrators. Under Jason's leadership, Kearney Public Schools has focused on creating meaningful opportunities for students and staff through initiatives such as the Kearney Teachers of Tomorrow partnership with the University of Nebraska at Kearney, expanded student pathways including JAG and JROTC, alternative programming, and strong community partnerships. Before becoming superintendent, Jason served in multiple leadership roles, including associate superintendent, principal, and teacher, giving him broad perspective on leadership and school improvement. One of the things that stood out for us while preparing for this conversation was how much the work in Kearney seems rooted in relationships, intentional systems, and creating opportunities that respond to real needs within the community. Jason, we're grateful to have you with us today. To get us started, would you share a little bit about your leadership journey and what continues to shape the way you think about leadership, schools, and creating opportunities for students and staff?
Yeah, thanks, Nathan and Jim. Really appreciate the invitation to be on the podcast. My leadership journey, I started in education in 2000. I worked in a large metro district in suburbia Atlanta, Paulding County Schools. In Paulding County, I taught business and some math courses for 3 years before moving into an assistant principal's role in 2003 at a middle school level. I did that a couple of years before I moved on to Carrollton City Schools in Georgia. Georgia has 21 city school systems and 159 county systems. And Carrollton was one of the city school systems. I worked in that district for 8 years, serving as a high school assistant principal. I was a career technical education director and associate principal at the high school there. Moved over to take an upper elementary principalship, which was a 4th through 6th grade school. And then in 2013, I moved back to my home state of Nebraska. My parents had some personal health and calamity issues that kind of brought our family back. I took it was a combined superintendent and K-12 principal both position at Anselmo Myrna Public School. It actually started as K-6 principal, and I did that for a few years. Then they asked me to do everything. So it was a small school, about 300 kids. Nevertheless, that's a very unique situation when you kind of do all things administration. In 2017, after 4 years at Anselmo Myrna, I came over to Kearney, took on the role of associate superintendent, really focused in that time of leading curriculum instruction assessment. I really had a big hand in student services. We didn't have a student services director. And so I did a lot of those pieces as well. And then in 2022, they selected me as superintendent when Dr. Edwards, my predecessor, retired. So that's a story in of itself. I worked for Dr. Edwards in Carrollton, Georgia. I've known Dr. Edwards for many, many years. I encouraged Dr. Edwards when I was in Anselmo Myrna to move back to Nebraska. He's also natively from Nebraska, and take the Kearney job. It was open due to a late change in decision. He ultimately got the job. He ultimately brought me over as associate superintendent. He retired. I became superintendent. My associate moved on to another district here in Nebraska, And Dr. Edwards said, "Hey, I'd like to be your associate." And so I said, okay. So he moved back to Nebraska from Georgia, and he's completing year one here as my associate. So we have a very unique relationship and journey, obviously, together. So that's kind of my leadership journey. Lots of experiences along the way, going from larger districts and obviously a much more populated area with different demographics in Georgia to rural Nebraska to now Kearney. We have about 35,000 people. Not tons of diversity. We do have a Hispanic population, probably 10 to 15% of our population. But Kearney, we're situated here in south central Nebraska, and very great community to live and work in.
It's interesting that you've had experience at about every level. So I'm just curious, who's your favorite? The little ones, the middle ones, or the older ones?
That's a really good question. My own children, my middle is going to be a teacher, elementary education. My wife's a teacher. She's an elementary teacher. I always say that fourth or fifth grade to me is the sweet spot on the bat for teaching. Kids are old enough to have expectations and understand what's expected, but still young enough to have a lot of fun and respect. I would say in leadership, they all have different challenges. Certainly the high schools are the biggest with the most staff, probably most similar to the superintendency. But if you're not interested in feelings and a lot of team building activities, I would not encourage the elementary principalship. So I think that's based on the leaders. Sometimes we kind of laugh and joke here. Secondary, they want to come and they want to teach and do their curriculum and, maybe not always engage with one another, just go home. Middle schools, it's almost like kids. Middle school's a little bit of a blend, and elementary, you better have some fun things going on and some dress up days and other things, or you're probably going to be a duck out of water.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's funny. My wife's a career fourth grade teacher, 30 plus years. And she said the exact same thing about teaching being that being the sweet spot. But yeah,
Listen, fellas, I want to tell you too, it's okay to have fun and the feelings and the things that go on with that too. I was an elementary guy.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun here. I lean into the fun, but I will say that was a big learning experience for me when I was an upper elementary principal. And of course, this kind of played out a little bit more too when I was at Myrna as a K-12 principal. I'll never forget, I had a teacher that was really struggling. And I felt like I was really trying to support that teacher and do all the things. And of course, I'd come out of the high school. And finally, one day I asked, what is it that you need? And she told me, I need a personal relationship with my principal. And I never had thought about, I was a business teacher. I didn't think about a personal relationship. I was thinking, I'll do my end, you do your end, and it was a learning moment for me. I really learned the value of those relationships. Not that high school teachers don't want relationships, they do, but it is different. And it's just a different level of camaraderie, I would say.
it's funny because I've told people often as a superintendent, there wasn't much that I enjoyed more than going watching a great elementary teacher teach an elementary classroom.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
but when they got up and they started hugging on the teacher and doing all of that stuff, I was ready to go back to the high school where they just
Exactly.
oh goodness. Um, One of the things is we looked at some of the articles written about you and just different things that stood out was opportunity. And that's not just student opportunities, but the teacher pipelines that you've created, the partnerships. So there's had to have been some intentionality to go down those paths. So what made that important to you to when you came into Kearney to be able to create those opportunities?
Yeah, great question. So on the student side, I would say, going back to my Georgia days, Carrollton City Schools was a transformative experience for me. I worked under a leader. He's now retired, Dr. I guess he is Dr. Tom Wilson. We always joke about that. He was esteemed a doctorate, I believe. Actually, he moved on to South Carolina, and they gave him an honorary doctorate. So he always says he had to earn his. We just got to write a paper for ours, which we laugh about. But Mr. Wilson, Dr. Wilson, whatever you want to say, Mr. Wilson really was a marketing genius. He really jumped into that communication, public-facing side of leadership. And it wasn't this, we're not putting out a great storefront, but there's nothing behind the pane glass window. It was all about athletics, arts, academics. In every arena, we were looking to hire the best teachers or coaches. We were looking to have programs that plug kids into school. I mean, obviously, as kids are excited and want to be involved and there's something that fits their interests, they're going to want to come to school. They're going to have a group of people to connect with. And when you do that and you build that type of culture, it's progressive. The community gets more excited. The arguments about tax dollars become less because they feel like the taxes are going to a really top flight program or quality educational experience. And so when I had that and I came to Kearney's a very similar community to Carrollton. They both have a Division II university. Kearney's a little bit bigger, but Kearney's kind of a destination city in Nebraska. We have a lot of folks that retire in Kearney, a lot of medical facilities in Kearney. So the infrastructure's here. All that's missing is just a committed group of people, maybe a leader with vision and a board. Nothing happens in education without a school board that is progressive, that says, yes, we know it costs money, but it's going to benefit students and it's going to benefit teachers and going to benefit the community. And so we've been blessed here in Kearney to have those boards over the last 10 years between Dr. Edwards and myself. So when I worked under Dr. Edwards and we brought forward the concept of an alternative 612 school to really help those kids that need a different setting, that need something different than the traditional high school to graduate, the board said yes, and that programming was built. Our principal of that school has done an amazing job. We've had 420 graduates come out of that school. Our graduation rates, in the 93% range, which is very high. And a lot of that was because they trusted the board, the commitment and vision to this is an appropriate and important educational tool. Well, as you go forward, when you have success like that, well, then there's things like we've added the JROTC program at the high school. We added Jobs for America's graduate program, which is a career-based program at the alternative school. We've added some middle school programs. We've added lots of facilities and upgrades. Again, those facilities matter when people have a lot of pride in their school and feel like the facility is nice. That is impactful on behavior. And so I would say on the student side, it's that same concept of when kids feel plugged in, when you're offering, whether it's the fine arts programs, whether it's maybe there are kids that love sports. We have 15 AP courses. We have lots of dual credit college classes with both the University of Nebraska-Kearney here in town, but also a CCC. As a technical college that's right across the street. We have a dual credit welding program with them. We have dual credit automotive programs with them. We have construction tech programming where kids build a house and we sell it. We're actually selling a home here soon in the community. We're the only district in Nebraska with 7 student organizations in every career cluster. So we have competing opportunities for students. So the whole focus has been on create the opportunities and continue to look for new and different opportunities where we can prepare kids, where we can give them something that interests them and move them forward. On the staff side of things, I would be remiss to not give a big shout out to the Dean of the College of Education at UNK, Mark Reed. Dr. Reed is retiring this year. Unfortunately, they're hiring an associate dean there, Dr. Haller, that we've also all worked together. But Dr. Reed, and I said this we did some national presentations together. He came to me as the new superintendent and said, "Hey, I'd like to sit down with you. I'd like to go around your district and see what you're doing. I'd like to see where we could partner together." I told him, I said, and they laugh, actually, higher ed does when you tell them this. I said, I don't know if it's because we took classes in higher ed or what have you. K-12 leadership doesn't say, I'm going to seek out. I would never have sought out the dean of education at the university and pitched the idea. And he laughed and said, "Really?" I said, "Absolutely. I never would have done that." But when you do that, because we have a reverence and a respect for higher education, you're the professors that taught us in graduate courses and so forth, it breaks down a barrier. It makes the university seem to be an accessible partner. So he really deserves a lot of credit for saying, let's bring something together. And so we started together the Kearney Education Collaborative is what we call it, where leaders from UNK and leaders from KPS, we come together every month and we talk about how can we make things better, both for our students here at Kearney Public, but also students that are maybe going into the university system or want to be teachers. So through that, we created Teachmates, which is a program where college seniors or student teachers are mentors for juniors and seniors in high school who might be thinking about education. So they meet once a month. The student teacher might ask the high school student, hey, what do you really like about your teachers, or what makes a great teacher? And of course, on the other end, they're asking the student teacher a lot of questions about college and, why did you choose what you're going into for teaching? And so it's a great relationship. The other thing was then the Kearney Teachers of Tomorrow Scholarship. I'm a big believer, and I'm trying to initiate something similar in the medical field, so it has nothing to do with education. It's really about the educational piece with KTOM was Kearney's a great community. 30% of the high school graduates at Kearney High School matriculate over to UNK. So 120 kids every year out of our graduating class, they head over to UNK to become a student. I don't personally believe that after a 4-year college experience at UNK, getting their degree, all of a sudden now at 22 or 23, a person that has been in Kearney their whole life says, well, now I'd like to move out of town and go to Denver or Omaha or Kansas City or wherever. They do that because they don't know that there's a job available in Kearney. There's no map. And I happen to have kids at this age, so I get the benefit of saying, I love my kids dearly, but they're growing and it's getting better, but they were like birds in the nest. Like their little beak would open and why don't you give me a life plan, Dad? Because they literally don't think about a map, or they kind of want that laid out, and if they like the map, they'll go pursue it, but they don't always necessarily lay out their own map. And so the impetus to the group was, why not take a graduating Kearney High senior? Let's figure out a scholarship whereby if they get tuition scholarship, great, but there's a huge cost that's in housing and food and all these other things. We'll give them dollars. It's not tuition based. They can use it towards tuition, but if they have tuition scholarships, they can use it towards housing and other things. But if they matriculate through UNK in the teaching fields and get a degree, then they are guaranteed a job in Kearney Public Schools upon graduation. We target their career field first. But for example, if you're an elementary teacher and we don't have an opening, then we might say, okay, but we do have an opening in this field that's out of endorsement, and we'll try to get you back into your endorsement as soon as possible. You'll kind of have a first dibs, if you will, on that. And if you don't like that, you didn't want to be a a sixth grade social studies teacher, you want to be an elementary teacher. We do have permanent subs. We hire people that's what they do every day. They're substitute teachers. And so they might do that for a period of time until we can find them a job. But as long as they work for our district for 3 years, then all dollars are accounted for, so to speak. We have a graduated scale if they don't, where they would repay the loan, no interest. I think we give 4 years on the repayment. So, we don't say, hey, we gave you $24,000 and now checks due. Because life happens. We know there's going to be kids that meet that forever someone and want to move somewhere. And, they didn't intend to do that, but it did. And so how do we work that out? So we have some things in there, but if nothing else, we're improving the overall field of education, bringing more people in to teach. So, that's a full Kearney High to UNK, back to Kearney Public map, the full map. If you love Kearney, want to stay here, want to work here, that's what that map is. And so we do 2 of those scholarships. We started with 9 in the initial cohort, and then we've done 2 each year since to kind of keep building the pipeline.
Yeah. One of the things that, go ahead, Nathan.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I love the part about the alternative school, the JAG program, the ROTC program. We talked about JAG here. We had an alternative school, our JROTC, I think is one of the oldest in the state of Missouri. But what I love about that is those are different opportunities that a lot of times are for students that sometimes get overlooked. And that is, I think young leaders especially typically work for boards that maybe have more of an interest in what are you doing for the athletes and the performing arts and the high flyers. All of the students matter. All of the students need that roadmap that you were talking about, need opportunities for leadership, need opportunities to explore. And I love that you're including all students when you start looking at those alternatives. Nathan, what were you getting ready to?
No, honestly, I was on the same piece, and whether it's with the students or the teachers, we're big advocates for authentic learning and opportunities and pathways. And I love so much of your passion there. Sometimes when I talk about it, I just have a hard time capturing the impact it has on culture. And like, sometimes you got to see it. Like, I can take a picture of a kid in that arena and you can see the face. And so I wonder, those opportunities that you've created for students and teachers, but maybe students specifically, and someone thinking, maybe they've got more traditional systems. They don't have all those pathways and getting out there. Like, what have you seen in like that just makes it like, this is work, but it's worth it?
Well, I think that we had an initial military signing day recently, so that was quite gratifying to see that we've started a program. We now have 6 kids going into the military, and we kind of created much like an athlete signing day. We had a military signing day with speakers. We have a young lady who had an appointment to every military academy, so she ended up choosing the Naval Academy, but she had an appointment to all of them. And we had a second cadet that was going to go to West Point. So to have 2 going on to the service academies like that out of the 6, that is also incredibly gratifying. Tonight we actually have an event called Musicalia. It's probably my favorite event of the year. All of the students who are award-winning in visual arts, they will have all of their paintings, their ceramics, their all sorts of things on display in our cafeteria. And the ability of their artwork is just astounding. And then we go into our Performing Arts Center, and there's about an hour and a half show with a variety of musical talent, singing, different genres of music, different instruments. Some are the traditional instruments, but there's also some piano, there's electric guitar. You just really get to see a lot of talent on display. That is really gratifying. All of the graduates, when we go and we have graduation ceremonies with the Aram Center, knowing that you more than likely helped a student with a program graduate from high school because you offered something that they could be successful in an environment, a smaller environment, more one-on-one. Maybe it might be non-traditional with computer-based instruction, but we have some small classes there as well. That's impactful in people's life. And actually, the gentleman, it's called the Hani Aram Center for Success because there's a local philanthropist businessman here in town. His son passed away, and his son had some troubles in the way along life, and he wanted to do something to help troubled youth or kids struggling. And so he really took a ton of dollars off of the purchase price of the building that we use for this school. He donated additional dollars to continue some renovations in the school. And he actually has decided now we are building an 8,000 square foot addition. It'll be kind of 2 levels on the northeast side that he's funding. He's either personally paying or generating dollars, and he's doing construction management to put that addition on. So that'll probably target more middle school kids, so we can serve more middle school kids. And then the new elementary building I mentioned, Cottonwood, when you have alternative schools, this will be a school that'll be really a tier 3 behavioral school focused on coaching kids on appropriate self-regulation skills, responses to correction, grit and perseverance. How do you complete tasks and not get frustrated? There's so many kids with trauma and so many kids that they don't have some of these skills and they need them. And I'm sure if you're talking to people over the country, you're talking about the fact that there's more elementary blow-ups, whether that's, just tantrums, meltdowns, whatever that may entail. There's kids that need a different setting at that level more than there ever has been. And so we believe that when we talk about student opportunities, it's not only the kid that will benefit over in the alternative setting, getting that coaching on their behavior, it's also the teachers and the kids that are left behind in the classroom who lost tons of instructional minutes and time because a student couldn't regulate their emotions and their behavior. And that's going to be transformational, in my opinion, for our district, for our elementary classrooms, and for the students that need those skills, with the hope that they're going to develop and build those skills and return to the regular classrooms as they finish out their educational experience with us.
I'm curious. I mean, I love that Cottonwood idea, Nathan. We had different options, but we never had that type of option. But as you talk about these different placements, these different opportunities, you're really talking about pathway for students and for an opportunity for them to be successful. So as you champion these different things, and you've got a community, a school board, a state. I don't know what the state of Nebraska's assessment system is, but we've got our standards that we're graded on. How do you champion that success doesn't always look like a test score? And how does success look in your mind?
Yeah, so that is a great question. We all face that pressure of test scores and trying to raise that bar and have results that reflect that students are doing well, achieving grade level standards and going forward. The way I see success, I tell our leaders, at the end of the day, graduation rate is the success. That you can take every test score, ACT, we call it NSCASC here. I'm sure there's other things in other states, but our state assessment is 3.8, and that's NSCASC. At the end of the day, kids have to graduate. There is no future without graduating from high school. So obviously the entirety of the educational journey, we need to do our very best to have classrooms that have environments where kids can learn and teachers can teach. So the alternative environments can help support that. We can't get to academics if we don't have behavior resolved. If you have a kid whose their mental health is in the fire, so to speak, you have to have a lot of mental health supports and programs, and we do. We're hiring more and more counselors, more licensed mental health therapists. But the most intensity of that is in our alternative programming, whether that's community counseling or otherwise. So you have to get to you have to take care of the whole child, the mental health needs, there's a lot of us that can't even imagine probably what's going on in different homes and the struggles. And there could just be basic needs. Our social workers are helping with that. So when you can meet the basic needs, you can meet the mental health needs and those supports, you can create environments and structures whereby kids can start to find success. The truth is, as they become successful, they tend to not want to leave those environments, even if they could, and even if they probably should. They don't want to. That's where they've been successful. But at the totality, if you don't graduate, that is the metric. There should be no other metric that's even considered anywhere as important as graduation rate, because you have to have kids graduate. Because I don't care if they're going to a 2-year school, 4-year school, military, straight to work. We're going to need that in our country. We're going to need, productive citizens who are ready for workforce, are ready to collaborate and problem solve with people. They can communicate well with one another. Those are the things that I think are, well beyond a test score, is the ability to be a functional, productive citizen with a path towards that, whatever that path may be.
Good stuff. You've talked about relationships and your community partnerships, and one of the things I notice is that they don't seem just like random pathways and partnerships. They are solving a problem. But what I wonder about as well, like, what have you learned about the role relationships and partnerships play in successful school systems?
Well, again, they're critical. And I would say the most important thing I've probably learned is someone has to develop the partnership. I think there's times industry want a partnership. From my old CTE days, there's people who say, and back in Carrollton, we created an engineering academy with a local Fortune 500 company. You have to find the right partner. Sometimes you're the seeker. Other times, like I said, with Dr. Reed, he contacted us, and we have a nursing pathway that's about to start, an early college nursing pathway with the Med Center, and they contacted us to develop that. When you get asked the opportunity, you can't turn it away. Usually when you're starting partnerships and you're expanding things, that also means more work for somebody. Well, it'd be easy to say, let's don't do that. We're busy enough. We don't need to add one more thing. Well, that one more thing might be the difference maker. And we have to find a way to accept the partnerships. We have to find a way to look for more. Because again, there's so many facets of this, but education as a whole, again, is preparation for beyond our K-12 years. We're going to need a lot of skilled labor in this country. We don't have enough electricians. We don't have enough plumbers. We don't have, enough kids going into the construction skilled trades. We have to have those programs. And if we can find industry partners and develop apprenticeships and find ways where kids can get plugged into the industry, well, now, again, this goes back to, I didn't really know where I was going, but now I have a direction. And so I think that the partnerships allow for those roadmaps to be developed and built, and really to now give kids meaningful ways, because what is workforce looking for? They're looking for people ready to go. And kids are starting to figure out, there's fewer kids going to four-year colleges unless it's for something they have to go to a four-year college. I feel like kids today are, because we said so, or, well, why do I have to do this class? Someone said, because you have to, Jason, that's okay. Well, these kids don't accept because you have to. They want a why. Why do I need to do it? And so creating those whys, developing again the partnerships, I think it takes work. It takes people seeking it. It takes conversation. It probably takes commitment, because again, our nursing partnership that has nothing to do with, other than our kids would benefit. Why would I be out? That's an economic development. That's a chamber. That's not the school superintendent. But I know there's kids that want to be nurses. I know nursing and doctors, and we're going to need great doctors in Kearney. They might be attending Kearney High right now. Why do we let people leave the community, go off to college wherever they go off to? They head off to whatever city or wherever they're going to live, and then we just hope that one day, out of nostalgia, and boy, I really want to raise my kids back where I used to live, or my parents are aging or whatever. That works sometimes, but boy, that's a real roll of the dice. Why not be more intentional? And all of a sudden, when you start having those conversations, people go, yeah, it makes sense. We need to be more targeted. And I grew up in a really small town in Nebraska. If there's ever a place that needs to have that conversation the most, it's small towns. They don't. My dad can't get a plumber right now. He needs just some plumbing done. There is no plumber. Well, if I was on the village board of that town, I'd be saying, shouldn't we go up to the high school and talk to the teachers and say who's really skilled in trades or really has this interest and would want to be a plumber? And as a community, we'll pay for your college, or we'll figure out a way to support you so you can come back here and run a business and provide a need and a service that we don't have. It's just, we don't do enough of that. So that's why we have partnerships, is because we're building some of those things. And I just think no matter where you live, big or small, a community has that need. So you got to be intentional about it.
Well, one of the things that we talk about, you've mentioned mental health for students and some of the challenges they have, but one of the things that's always been big for Nathan and I, and we always try to kind of bring our podcast to a close by talking a little bit about, you ask the superintendent, the leader, the pressure, the responsibility. How do you stay grounded? How do you relax, refill, recharge, so that you can be your best?
Well, that's a great question. I would start by saying, I personally believe faith is critically important. I'm a Christian, so I'm not perfect. There's some Sundays I don't make it, but more Sundays than not, I try to have that time, that meditation, that reflection, that prayer. I try to work that into my daily life as much as I can as well. I think that's really important. My family and friendship groups are tight. If I didn't have a family that supported me, that knew what my job, because it's, if you did a lot of research on me, you'd find I'm one that probably I'm going to make some decisions that I think are in the best interest of students and our school community, regardless of whatever the consequence might be. So there's been some controversial, heated decisions along my 4 years, boardrooms packed, angry people. That has an impact on your family. They're just like, hey, I just want to be anonymous, but I can't be anonymous because you're not anonymous, Dad. But they support you in that. My friends, they're very supportive in that. I have a lot of hobbies. I like to hunt and fish. I exercise a lot. I think exercise is really important for leaders' mental health. There's a lot of time I don't run with music. I just kind of meditate and think about a lot of different things going on in my world during that time. And I'm probably unique a little bit in that I feel like I compartmentalize things quite a bit. I had a community member come up. We had honors night earlier this week for the high school. I attended the event. I had a community member come up, cut me off, and tell me that I was doing a terrible job and I should be embarrassed. I had no idea who the person was. I don't know what decision I made that upset them. I tried to ask. They didn't want to respond. And I happened to be with the college dean at that time because we were awarding that scholarship. And he goes, "Wow." And I laughed and said, "Yeah, welcome to the superintendency, Dr. Reed. It's a little different, sir." You have to have thick skin. You have to be able to compartmentalize, and but you also have to lead. And I'm a big believer in, if I just wanted to ride along and not make difficult decisions and just try to kind of keep coasting, that'd be a lot easier job. But that's not the right way to lead. And you have to look yourself in the mirror. When you know this is the right thing to do, you have to do it, regardless of whatever those consequences might be. And I had a leader of mine who had been a superintendent in a smaller district. He came and worked for us, and he grabbed my arm one day. He was trying to kind of coach me on something, and I cut him off, and I said, his name was Dan. I said, "But Dan, you have to remember, when I watch Star Wars, I cheer for Darth Vader, not Luke Skywalker." Well, we've never forgot that, but that's kind of who you're talking to. Not everyone wants to have that. I understand and almost accept that's part of this job. And if you don't have that, and I am worried, I will say that, it takes a lot. That doesn't mean I'm human. It takes a lot. And I do worry a little bit as we go forward in time. Those pressures grow, those demands grow. Staff isn't always happy. You're trying to constantly try to, find the next thing that's going to be pleasing to the staff. You try to keep your students happy. You try to keep your taxpayers happy. You definitely want to keep your board members happy. And they're different, obviously, as you go and trying to balance 6 people on where they want to go. I don't know in the future. I hope that there's a lot of leaders that want to step forward to it, but there aren't. And we're hearing that often. There's, in fact, even to the building principalship, there's getting to be, when we talk about teacher shortage, well, nobody talks, mainly because we all know that the administration, we're the highly paid, what do you guys do?
Right.
Yeah. But people are not, there's getting to be fewer people that are willing to take that criticism. And so you have to know in yourself if you're willing to do that, but you're right, decompressing and finding your sweet spot and how you're going to do that. I like to play poker. There's a lot of mental engagement in that. That's unusual. I shoot in 2 pool leagues. Also unusual, but when they say, "Well, that's a superintendent," not common. But I think that keeps you grounded. I think that keeps you in a place where I'm just a guy. I have a job. It's an important one, but my job is not me. It's not my life. It's not everything about me. I'm a human being with interests, and I'm not ashamed of my interests. And, I'm just trying to do my best with the time I have. There's a large picture right here outside my office. It's all the superintendents have been in this district. And people kind of cringe. They don't like when I say it, but I said, "You see that picture of me over there? That's actually a tombstone." They haven't etched the other number, but their day's coming. So I have X amount of time to do the very best I can. And all I can do is do my best, make those decisions. And when they etch that number, whenever that number is, I can leave here feeling like I did something that will have some impact.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, I tell you what, if leaders got anything out of today, that last part about just you got to do the right thing, and there be criticism that comes regardless of which side of any decision you fall on. So powerful stuff. Nathan, anything before I bring us to a close today?
No, it was good stuff and honor to have you on. And yeah, lots of great tidbits. That last part is the courage piece, and really that's why we exist, is to help pour into some leaders who have that potential, but they wonder, and like there's that courage piece that that we worry about too. And there's going to be a void, and can we help support those leaders in different ways? So I really appreciate you sharing that, Jason.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you guys.
the
All right.
encouragement. So I got to ask, are you a Big Red fan?
Uh, yes, sir. I was born here, and boy, I'd have been disowned from the family. There's only one football program in this state, and that's UNL football. And when
Yeah.
I happen to thankfully live during the time where we were really good, and um, there's been many times over the years since. I would tell you in the last, 10 or 15. I can't tell you the number of beautiful fall Saturdays where I say, why did I waste this entire beautiful day frustrated and upset by what I'm looking at? You know, I could have been doing all kinds of other things, but yeah,
I tell
yeah.
a quick story. I had my not Nathan, but my other assistant superintendent. He and I are big OU fans, and we had two board members, and you're gonna find this hard to believe. Two board members here in Southwest Missouri that were huge Nebraska fans,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
just happened to be that it was at that time where we had the home and home. And so we went down, the four of us went to Norman and got to watch that game. And then the return trip to Lincoln, I didn't get to go. I've been to Lincoln. It's a phenomenal environment. But anyway, we had a big time with the OU Nebraska rivalry. And I was born in Oklahoma, so I know what you mean by the roots. And so, yeah.
Yeah, well, those were the glory years. Most of the time, we ended up on the wrong side of the stick, whether that was Keith Jackson scoring multiple touchdowns late, or Sooner Magic working itself, and
Uh,
Barry
uh,
giving the all,
Well, there was the
let's
Johnny Rogers
see the
game too.
blues.
So
Yeah, yeah.
we, it's been great having you, and appreciate all you do. All right, Jason, thank you for sharing your leadership journey and perspective with us today. As we think back on the things you talked about, the investment in students and teachers, and thinking about creative ways to create those opportunities, I think any leader can take away from that. And to our listeners, we hope today's conversation encourages you to think about how to create your own opportunities for students and staff in your district, and continue to serve them every day. If your district's interested in leadership coaching, systems alignment, strategic planning, professional learning support, Nathan and I happy to visit with you about how Lifted can partner in that work. And until next time, be well and keep leading with purpose beyond the bell.